Welcome and good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. My name is Randy Lober, Growth Marketing Manager here at Action Benefits, and happy to have you along for this afternoon session where we'll talk about 8 things that you broadly, not you specifically, but you may be forgetting during your Medicare marketing events. Joining me today is one of our account managers from our individual team, Renee Tavalt. She might even be your account manager. Renee, I want to give you a chance to say hi before we get started.
Hi, Randy. Good afternoon to all the agents joining us today. Thank you for spending this time with us. And if you need any assistance or have any questions after this, please do not hesitate to reach out to your account manager or anyone on the individual team. We're happy to help.
Thank you, Renee, for joining us here today. Your expertise is certainly appreciated as we go on about our business here today. Let's talk about what we're doing here and where the session came from a little bit before we go ahead and get started. So the title of today's session is 8 Things You, again, you broadly, not you necessarily, are forgetting during your Medicare marketing events. And where this session comes from is recently some of our carrier partners have published a list of things that they've seen during secret shopping or things that they've been informed about during CMS's secret shopping that maybe not have formally landed anyone in hot water necessarily, but there are things that both CMS and carriers are taking notice of, and ignoring these things at your peril could land you in hot water with CMS or carriers, as the case might be, depending on who you're secret shopped by. So what we want to do is bring your attention to some of those things, make sure that you are boned up, brushed up, or whatever, adverb you want to use to describe that. Make sure that as you go into working into your off-season marketing here and even preparing for next AEP, it's not that far away, all things considered, that you are compliant in doing so, and you are doing right by your business and doing right by your beneficiaries and protecting everyone here involved. One thing that would help Renee and I a lot today is knowing a bit more about your experience if you're here in the room with us. So we'd like to know which statement best describes you. Is it A, you're brand new to the Medicare market? B, you have some experience in the Medicare market, but you're new to working with Action? C, you have some experience with Medicare and Action, but you'd like a refresher, and if so, you might be in the right place. Or is it D, you're a seasoned pro and you just love spending time with Action? Please go ahead and put the letter that most closely matches your experience in the chat. Helps Renee tailor and target, try to mix those words up, some of our talking points here today. Give you a few moments to do that before we roll forward. Okay, good mix so far, and I'm sure as more responses come in, good mix of those who are brand new to the market, those who have some experience and are here for the refresher, and we love you too, Christine. Thanks for joining us. Haven't seen you in a while or seen your name pop up in a while, but thanks for coming along here today. Let's go ahead and that helps give us a little bit of idea of where we need to start. Being that we have some folks that are newer to the Medicare market, we're going to spend a little bit of time here on some of the foundational pieces of our agenda before we dig into those 8 reminders that those who are here for the refresher might need. So we're going to give you a quick crash course in educational versus marketing events and zero in on the specific legal classification of the events we're talking about here in today's session, the formal marketing events. We'll then take some time to look at those 8 things that secret shoppers noted during those events. And then, because this can be a rather technical what-if sort of session, we are leaving plenty of time for Q&A at the end, so you can ask us all the off-the-wall stuff you might come with us, or even the run-of-the-mill stuff that might come out of your brains as we're thinking here today. So we're not here for necessarily a long time here today, but we are here for a good time, making sure you're all up to snuff. So let's start at the beginning there, talk about educational versus marketing events, again, as a maybe a refresher from your licensing courses, but also real practical examples of what you can and can't do and what exactly it is we're talking about here for these events that are being secret shopped. So first thing we need to think about is what's the big difference between educational and marketing events? And on the left side, you see educational events described, and on your right side, you see marketing events described. Your educational events, think about those more colloquially as your Medicare 101s. They're simply there to inform beneficiaries about Medicare, Medicare programs, how they work, but they're not there to necessarily promote a a specific product or specific family of products or a specific carrier. It is truly just educational. And because they're educational, they must be marketed as such. There's no sales or marketing activities you can do there. You can't even collect a scope of appointment there. You are really just out there serving as a lighthouse for the confusing world that Medicare can be for beneficiaries and prospective beneficiaries. On the right side, marketing events, and that's where we're going to spend some more time here today. Those are the events where you are talking about plan-specific information. They're really designed for lead generation. Hey, I'd love to tell you about plan XYZ from carrier ABC, and here's all the benefits that are embedded. Would you like to sign up? And you can collect applications, get scopes at those events if you so choose, if someone needs a little more time to think. And that's the really kind of key difference to keep in mind. And we should note that no matter which kind of event you are looking at doing, whether it's educational or marketing, every carrier has their own requirements about what they require from you, the agent, in terms of reporting that, in terms of deadlines for reporting those, and so on and so forth. Educational events, the Medicare 101s, generally speaking, aren't as strictly supervised by the carriers. Many carriers don't require you to report those at all. But marketing events, when you're out there talking about plan-specific information and doing those sorts of things, that's where you'll want to get in touch with your account management team here at Action Benefits. We'll help you walk through all those guidelines. Generally speaking, as long as you are reporting by the 10th of the month before your event or your intended event is meant to take place, you're in the clear. But again, every carrier has slightly different guidelines about what they will and won't accept when you're reporting those events. We should also talk about the difference in the materials that you can bring to those events. A few times as we've gone along, or I've ridden along with agents on these events as they're preparing Medicare 101s, I see enrollment kits with them, and that's not okay. No enrolling allowed at an educational event. Pack that up, leave it in your trunk. What you can have at your educational events when you have those are your business cards, your lead gen cards, or your business reply cards, and gifts or giveaways of $15 value or less. And we'll spend more on that a bit later on. At your marketing events where you are talking plans, you are talking products, yes, bring your enrollment kits along. Talk about your Medicare Advantage enrollment kits, your PDP enrollment kits, your SCAR rating flyers, which you'll need to do those enrollments, your MedSup enrollment kits, if that's what you're happen to be talking about in that presentation. You can bring out your comparisons and brochures, your optional supplemental benefit brochures. All that stuff is welcome at a marketing event, but not at your educational events. We should note that CMS and carriers, when they do secret shop, do pay attention to what you have out on the table. And if you are not complying with that policy, so if you have plan foldouts at your educational events that are specifically marketed and labeled as such, you can be subject to disciplinary action by the carrier up to and including the revocation of your appointment with that carrier. So but by all means, please do keep those differences in mind and keep that checklist in mind of what you can and cannot bring with you. And the last big kind of foundational piece we want to lay down here today that's going to guide our conversation is the difference between formal and informal marketing events. Both of these need to be reported to your carriers. Whether it's a formal event where you have the stage in a ballroom or a conference room or something else and you are the star of the show, or whether it's an informal event where you're providing information to beneficiaries upon request. So someone's coming up to you at a table or a booth or a kiosk or anything else of the sort. It's going to be fair and festival season coming up here soon. You might have a booth set up at your county fair, whatever the case might be. That needs to be reported to your carriers. And again, we can help you do that. And just make sure that we have appropriate notice to help you navigate that process here today. What we want to really focus in on here today is those formal marketing events where you are giving presentations to beneficiaries and prospective beneficiaries about plan-specific information. So you're saying, hi, this is plan XYZ from, carrier XYQ, and I'm a licensed health agent. This is a product I represent. We're talking about these products here today. And by the way, I can enroll you here today. That's really where we're spending our time for the moment here today. One more reminder, though, before we go forward, is that educational and marketing events you can't schedule them within 12 hours of one another in the same location. And this comes from some rulemaking CMS did a few years ago. They revived this rule, in fact. But what they found a lot of times that were happening is that agents would get people in the door for an educational event. This is unscrupulous agents, not any of you. But they would get people in the door with an educational event at 11 o'clock, then launch into a product presentation at 12 o'clock, and really kind of create a high pressure environment for folks to enroll in whatever plan they were presenting. CMS really wants to, where they can, and very much so, protect beneficiaries here and make sure those high pressure environments don't and cannot exist. So there must be a 12-hour space between your educational and marketing events if you have them at the same venue. Maybe you are a near celebrity at your local library. If you are doing that, make sure you have that spacing between your events. So like I said today, that is a bit of a crash course. I'd like to see if there's any questions you have, but also want to hear from our agents here. What role do these formal marketing events play in your current marketing strategy? And if you're brand new to the industry, maybe you don't have this quite sussed out yet, what role would you like them to play? Do you see those presentations or those informal presentations, for that matter, being part of your strategy? Go ahead and take a few minutes to write about that in the chat. And Renee, I'd love to hear if there's anything you have to add about the difference between marketing and educational events for our agents here.
So Randy, we're starting to see a lot of questions or inquiries from agents because now that AEP and MAOEP is over, agents are starting to try to find ways to attract and find new clients and all that. So it's good for agents to make sure they're doing their research, read up on everything Randy has mentioned, make sure they're aware of what they're allowed and not to do to stay in compliance. But everything that you've mentioned is very important for an agent to know before hosting an event.
Absolutely. And of course, all of us here at Action are happy to help you work inside those guidelines and figure out exactly what you can and can't do at those events as on a case-by-case basis. Some of you chiming in and saying, and remember, you can either chat publicly or privately. Some of you saying that formal events don't quite yet have a big spot in your marketing arsenal. And if I can make an inference or two, it's probably because there's a bit of a fear of the compliance aspect of all the things you have to do in order to make them go well. And that's reasonable, that's fair. Hopefully today we can alleviate some of that fear. Some of you saying that, I want to try them, but I just can't get people to show up. I can't get butts and seats to talk to. And that's certainly a problem we can help you solve as well. In fact, a problem we can help you solve 2 weeks from today on April 30th here in our Southfield office. So please do come see us then. Shameless plugging aside, let's talk about those 8 things that secret shoppers have found agents to forget during those formal marketing events. First thing that must be mentioned in every event, and by the way, I should say we are limiting our discussion today only to the 8 things most commonly found here. Not necessarily a full A to Z of everything that needs to happen inside these formal marketing events, but we will give you ways to get to A to Z. This is just a really good reminder of those things that secret shoppers are calling out. At any rate, first thing that agents often overlook when having these formal marketing events is the discussion that the beneficiary is still on the hook for their Part B premium. So many times in a marketing event, agents are so excited to get to the $0 premium plans that they forget to talk about the rest of the costs associated with Medicare, especially the cost of the Part B premium. So beneficiaries, when they go to sign up and they look at all their bills and everything else, they're saying, hey, wait a minute, where's this $185 coming from? And that's because, as you know, beneficiaries are always on the hook for that Part B premium unless they have, Medicare savings programs that are helping out with it. So first things first is, as you are laying out the groundwork, make sure you are talking about those Part B premiums. By far, as we read those reports from the secret shoppers, that is the #1 things that agents have missed in their discussions. So please pay attention to that. Second thing that is most commonly missed in these presentations are the late enrollment penalties. It's absolutely essential that as an agent, you do inform your prospects and clients of their possible late enrollment penalties if they don't enroll in the appropriate parts of Medicare when they're first eligible. Just as a reminder, your beneficiaries who are not entitled to premium-free Part A pay that extra 10% for twice the number of years that they did not sign up, but could have been enrolled in Part A. Your beneficiaries who do not enroll in Part B when they're first eligible or take advantage of a special enrollment period at the end of their employer-sponsored employment or employer-sponsored insurance, rather, which is the most common SEP here, can be subject to that lifetime 10% Part B late enrollment penalty. And your Part D beneficiaries, remember that they only have a 63-day SEP at the end of their employer-sponsored coverage or other equivalent creditable coverage to elect new coverage to avoid that late enrollment penalty. So as you are, again, talking about these late enrollment penalties and this possibility here, make sure that comes up in both your marketing events, make sure that comes up in your educational events, and make sure you're doing a real good job educating your beneficiaries about what can happen if they don't enroll when they could or should. Third thing that often happens is agents often forget to explain both the what and the how of formularies. What is a formulary? What does it mean? What do tiers 1 through 6 mean? So as experienced agents or even newly licensed agents, you know that carriers often have tiers 1 through 5 or 1 through 6, depending on the carrier's plan design. On those drugs, you know that tier 1 drugs are frequently less expensive. They're your generics. Tier 5 or tier 6 drugs are your more expensive. They're your specialty drugs. That is part and parcel of every marketing event that you should be doing, whether it's formal marketing events or informal, as you're talking about how those plans are designed. So please make sure that comes up in your presentations here as well. The fourth most common thing that beneficiary or agents neglect to inform beneficiaries of, and again, there's a pattern here, right? Where agents tend to get really excited and get into plan benefits and get into product specific information, and they're not doing that educational work up front, and that's where a lot of these are coming from here. The fourth most common thing agents neglect here is talking about step therapy. So Medicare enrollees should know that their prescription coverage, whether they have it via an MAPD or a standalone PDP, will likely include step therapy as a utilization management or feature. Step therapy does require both that doctors and patients to try less costly and lower tier drugs before they use the more expensive ones. And that nominally should help save money for both patients and insurers alike. Again, as you're talking about drugs and doing some of that work with folks and you're laying some of the foundation, make sure you're paying attention to prescription drugs and in particular step therapy as a utilization management effort. Again, that's something secret shoppers have seen that agents not doing enough of when they have these more formal events. Number 5 is a really interesting one. If you have kept up with the final rule at all that came down a few weeks ago. So back in November or so, when CMS proposed the Medicare rule for 2026, they kicked around the idea of requiring all agents to explain the low-income subsidy at every appointment that they had as part of that pre-enrollment checklist. That didn't make it into the Medicare final rule, so you don't necessarily have to talk about it at every appointment as part of the pre-enrollment checklist, but you do have to talk about low-income subsidies and extra help as part of your formal marketing presentations here today. So both CMS and carriers do want their Sorry, I was just reading what Christine read here. No messages are showing. Christine, if you can give me a little more detail on that, I'd be happy to look into that. Back to my train of thought, CMS and carriers do want beneficiaries to know that they may be eligible for help paying for their Part D premiums and out-of-pocket costs via a low-income subsidy here. We have tons of resources on actionbenefits.com to help educate you with some quick reference sheets about what those resource thresholds are, and those income levels are for those sorts of things. So by way of example, you should be able to tell your folks during these events that during contract year 2025, eligible beneficiaries will pay no more than $4.90 for your generic prescriptions or $12.15 for their brand name prescriptions, again, depending on their income and resource limits. On page six, the sixth most common thing that agents are leaving out of these formal educational events, or formal marketing events rather, are enrollment and disenrollment periods. So again, a lot of folks get really jazzed up talking about the products, talking about the plans, and they're not talking necessarily about when you can join a plan, when you can switch a plan, when you can leave a plan. So the really key things that CMS and secret shoppers from carriers really want to make sure that you talk about in these events are the 7-month initial enrollment period. Again, that's the 7-month period surrounding the month of their 65th birthday. Want to make sure you hit the general enrollment period that happens every January through March, where they can sign up if they happen to have missed their initial enrollment period or special enrollment period for parts A and or B. And you also want to be able to talk about common special enrollment period opportunities as well. So oftentimes the most commonly worked into presentations here is where you're talking about the 8-month window they have after the termination of their employer-sponsored coverage, whether that's retirement or another reason. And of course, as agents, you want to make sure that they're aware of AEP. That comes up in the fall, right? That's their opportunity to switch coverage if they so choose, where they have the most flexibility in doing so. So you want to do your part up front, especially if you're doing these sorts of events as a pre-AEP marketing move. Make sure you're talking about AEP during those times here as well. Beneficiaries can also be made aware of during these events the MAOEP, which just closed here at the end of March. It is the only time, or educational events also, I guess, fall into this bucket, but it's the only time you can talk about MAOEP first and make sure that folks are aware of that. You know, during MAOEP, you can't use that as an additional marketing opportunity. You can't say, hey, want to switch plans? You got this time to do so. That's not okay during MAOEP, but you can educate folks during these formal marketing events. You are, in fact, encouraged and required to by these secret shoppers here as well. The number 7 on the list is star ratings. So as part of formal marketing events, most carriers build this into their formal marketing event decks, where you talk about the star ratings, both what the CMS star ratings program is and how it helps rate plan quality on the quality of care and the customer satisfaction they provide. And there's all kinds of sub ratings that go into those star ratings here as well. But oftentimes, again, CMSs and carrier secret shoppers are seeing that these star ratings are being neglected in these formal marketing events. So at a minimum, make sure that you're talking and telling folks that that there is a 1 to 5 star rating system, that of course 5 stars mean they provide a higher quality of service and customer care and customer satisfaction. And make sure that you're able to talk with them a bit about the sub ratings that make into that, where they talk, you look at specific health outcomes or the quality of customer service that feeds into those ratings as well. The 8th thing and the final thing here today, before I give you one more bonus, is preventative benefits at no cost. So when you're talking Medicare Advantage, and that's what you're doing at these formal marketing events, generally speaking, it's really easy to get wrapped up in all the bells and whistles. Hey, you want free pickleball paddles? Hey, there's, I got companion care for you. I've got dental, vision, hearing. I've got all the stuff built in. Give me your, let's see what the right product is for you. Let's get you signed up here today. And what is happening though, or what CMS and these carriers have found, is that preventive benefits are not being discussed during these formal marketing events. So we're not talking about things like the annual physicals. You're not agents haven't been talking about things like annual wellness visits or flu shots or cancer screenings or all those other things that fall into the preventive benefits that are embedded in every plan as a requirement of the Medicare coverage or Medicare Advantage coverage. But CMS and the carriers do want to make sure you are paying attention to that and letting beneficiaries know that at their core, right, they're purchasing health coverage. What the health benefits are. It's not all the bells and whistles that matter. It's what does that actual health and coverage do for me? And preventive benefits are, of course, a big part of that. The bonus item I want to give you here today are talking about sign-ins, food, and drinks. This wasn't called out explicitly in the top 8 list, which is why it's a bonus item here today. But it is a great practice, of course, to put out a sign-up sheet at your formal marketing events. After all, you're marketing a plan, you're hoping to collect leads, you want to get enrollments out of those meetings, but secret shoppers have caught agents who aren't indicating that those sign-up sheets are optional, either in word and action or actually on the sheet. And you must do so in both places. You must tell folks that signing in for this event is optional, and your sign-up sheet itself must say this is optional. So you very much cannot require anyone to sign in, but you can certainly suggest that that would be, a good way to contact you for help in the future. The other thing that we often get, calls about is what kind of food, what kind of drinks can I actually serve here? And can I serve a pizza? The answer is, for pizza at least, no, because pizza, all things together, bundled together, constitutes a meal. But you can serve things that, as long as you stay in that nominal value rule, which states that you can't spend more than $15 per attendee on any combination of their food, drinks, or giveaway items. And as long as you remember the bundling rule, which means you can't offer anything that can be put together to look or sound or feel like a meal, you can do almost anything else you want to. So you can put a selection of beverages and baked goods out there. You could bring in Aunt Sally's bourbon chocolate pie and cut up, servings of that and give that out to folks. And who doesn't love a little home cooking or baked goods when they come to an event? What a great way to connect with folks, even over the recipe and something later could lead to use some for something down the line. Big takeaway here, though, is food and drinks got to fall within that $15 limit, though. And it can't be in any way bundled together to look like a meal. So think about baked goods, think about building a connection that way if you're able to. Think about other snacks. Sure, you can get together water, chips, pop, crackers, cookies, as long as there's not a traceable meal that would fill up a school lunch tray. You're probably in the clear here on that one. Renee, anything to add here before we move into our home stretch here today? Anything that I've missed or anything you'd like to elaborate on?
I think there's a lot of important information that you covered, Randy, that's important for the agent to communicate with their client. And a call we get quite a bit is, especially when someone could be subject to that late enrollment penalty for the Part D. After an agent submits an application to the carrier, possibly a letter might be mailed to their client. And it's maybe important for the agent to remind their client that if they should receive any communication, a letter at home or so, requesting further information from that member, asking if they had prior prescription drug coverage, and then to make certain that information is returned in a timely manner. Usually there could be a date in the letter or something, or at least share that letter with their agent so they know what the carrier is requesting and get that information back to the carrier, again, in a timely manner, before it's due, because we do get a lot of calls where this information was sent out and someone didn't open up their mail for a couple months, and then we have to research and this and that. So again, it's very important for them to kind of agents to mention that information ahead of time, that if you do receive something at home, please review it, and then whatever is requested, get it back in a timely manner, so it's definitely received.
Absolutely. Great piece to include in a lot of your client conversations, rather, whether that is in a marketing event, whether it's in an educational event, or even, in fact, when you're doing the enrollment. Hey, if you get anything from the carrier, let me know. I can help. And then you can pass that along to us, and we can help you with that as well. As we head into our home stretch today's session, the one thing that's been on the screen here for a while that I want you to think about is some ways you can hit all these points in a formal marketing session. And I'm not even going to make you think about it too hard. I'm just going to give you the answer. And the answer is stick to the script. And here is what I love about all of our carrier partners. They all have carrier materials that are really well scripted to make sure that you hit all of these points. Whether you go to a big purple carrier or a tiny blue carrier or somewhere in between, or the green carriers for that matter, everyone's got a script for their formal marketing presentations. Everyone's got a deck already put together for you. The other thing you need to do is put it up on the screen and stick to that script. As long as you're sticking to that script, and by sticking to the script, of course, you can say, hi, my name is, and so on and so forth, and add a little flavor and color to it. But that script is a minimum of what you're expected to say during that conversation. If you're not altering the presentation in any way, which you shouldn't be because they have been approved by CMS and the carrier's marketing department, as long as you stick to those scripts, you will be A-okay in delivering a compliant presentation to your folks. You can answer beneficiary questions as they come up during marketing events. That's entirely okay, but you can't necessarily steer the conversation beyond what they do ask you. But I think the big takeaway here, and what I'd love to leave you with here today, is having a compliant Medicare marketing event where you're talking about plans and information is a lot simpler than it seems. You report it. You get people butts in seats, which we can help you with there as well. And you stick to the script. You just say, what is largely on the screen, say what's largely on the slides there. Make sure you hit all the information, and you're going to make those secret shoppers smile for one, but you'll also do right by your audience that's on the other side of that lectern or podium or wherever you happen to be. Renee and I, at this point, we do invite any questions, comments, or concerns you might have, or any edge cases you might have. But like I said today, we weren't here for a long time. We're here for a good time. So if you must go, we want to thank you for your time and attention here today. I love spending time with your agents, or our agents here. Only about a half hour or so of presentation here today, but hopefully it was a good reminder of all those things that help you deliver a compliant presentation going forward. You are always welcome to get in touch with Action at any of these channels. Find us on LinkedIn at the Action Benefits Company. Find us at email at learning@actionbenefits.com, or Renee's team at individual@actionbenefits.com, or find our main line at 248-356-8585. All that said, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours for any questions you might have. Please put them in the chat or Q&A, and Renee and I are happy to stick around for anything you might have here. Thank you for joining us here today, Christine. Always appreciate you coming out. I should mention, by the way, because I am always a shameless plugger, again, we're inviting agents out to our office on April 30th. We'll be talking in detail about late enrollment penalties and how to avoid them, as well as some compliant marketing strategies that you can use for your agency. Should also mention that breakfast that day is on me. So if you're not already signed up, well, not me, it's not my credit card, it's Action's credit card. But if you're not already signed up, look forward to seeing you there as well. All that said, folks, you're going to hear me stop the recording, but Renee and I are happy to stick around for anything else that might be on your mind.